Thank you. Leader of the Greens.
Madam Speaker, I seek the leave of the House to move a motion without notice for the purpose of moving the suspension of standing orders to debate the following motion of censure. That this House censures Elise Archer, Guy Barnett, Shane Broad, Jenna Butler, Sarah Courtney, Anita Dow, Michael Ferguson, Peter Gutlin, Eloise Haddad, Suzanne Hickey, William Hodgman, Jennifer Houston, Roger Yench, David O'Byrne, Jacqueline Petrusma, Jeremy Rockcliffe, Joan Ryler, Mark Shelton, Alison Standen, John Tucker and Rebecca White on the following grounds. 1. The members' failure to offer meaningful support to young people in their fight for a safe climate. 2. The members' failure to stand up to their federal colleagues' shameful advocacy for the coal, oil and gas industries, as well as their willingness to accept donations from these industries. 3. The members' shameful support for logging natural forest carbon banks. And 4. The members' complicity in global climate and environmental vandalism that has led to a climate and biodiversity emergency. And, Madam Speaker, as Greta Thunberg said in front of the UN Climate Summit, how dare you, how dare all of you vote against supporting young people's strike for a safe climate. These young people, 15,000 or more young Tasmanians, their mums, dads, aunts, uncles, friends, stood up on the lawns of the Tasmanian Parliament last Friday demanding leadership on climate change. And if the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, wants kids just to be kids, well then leaders need to be leaders. And every person in this place who yesterday voted against supporting young people striking for a safe climate, it is a failure of leadership, Madam Speaker, an absolute failure of leadership, and shame on you, shame on all of you. You are a disgrace. You are an absolute disgrace. We censure every member of this place, Madam Speaker, and we will make sure that out in the community our constituents know how every person voted in this place when they were given an opportunity to support young people striking for a safe climate. Absolute failure of leadership, a failure to support young Tasmanians in their struggle for the security of their futures, lying to the public about Tasmania being a global leader in climate action. And let's just be really clear about that, Madam Speaker. Go and have a look at the greenhouse accounts, Madam Speaker. The reason that Tasmania is a net carbon sink is because of the struggle of the conservation movement and the Greens over decades to protect our natural forests, Madam Speaker. Our forests is what gives the Premier of the day the opportunity to get up here and pretend that he is a global climate leader when he is not, because his government wants to log 356,000 hectares of some of the most beautiful carbon-dense forests on the planet. And we had it confirmed, Madam Speaker, in Parliament today that the government has failed to secure forest stewardship certification for Sustainable Timbers Tasmania. While the Minister for Resources couldn't bring himself to actually tell the truth, by omission we now know that a report which was handed by the Forest Stewardship Council to Sustainable Timbers Tasmania on the last Friday in May this year condemned, in effect, STT's logging practices which are driving species towards extinction, Madam Speaker. Logging practices in swift parrot habitat, masked owl habitat, Tasmanian devil habitat, and the Forest Stewardship Council rightly said to the Tasmanian Government and to our forestry GBE, you do not deserve FSC because your logging practices are not sustainable. And in a time of climate and biodiversity emergency, Madam Speaker, there is no justification on moral grounds for logging those forests. Madam Speaker, there's an absolute failure of Tasmanian Labor to commit to climate action when just recently at a state conference, at a Labor state conference, they approved a motion which supported current forestry practices, that being, of course, the same policy as the Liberal government. And we know, Madam Speaker, that responsibility for Sustainable Timbers Tasmania incapacity to get FSC certification rests squarely on the Liberal shoulders, and they are being cheered on by every member of the Labor Party which stood in this place last night and refused to support children striking for a safe climate. And of course, this is the same Labor Party which supports the Adani coal mine, which takes massive donations from the coal, oil and gas industries, which has signed up to the Parliamentary Friends of Coal. Madam Speaker, absolute moral failure and a massive slap in the face to young people, Madam Speaker. So how can young Tasmanians who attended that climate strike in their thousands seriously believe that both the Labor and Liberal parties are hearing their concerns? They can't, Madam Speaker. I got home last night, Madam Speaker, after that vote, and I had to deal with a really distressed child, Madam Speaker. And I said, "What's the matter, darling?" "I'm just experiencing some existential angst, Mum." And that came from watching this debate in here last night, Madam Speaker.
May I draw your attention to the fact that you're supposed to be debating the need for leave and not the substantial motion? And could I also point out, I take tremendous personal offence at what you have been doing this morning, because I went to that rally and I also believe in it, and I believe most of this House supported your motion with a few additions. So I'm afraid I take personal offence. I'm very disappointed you're doing this.
Thank you for telling me.
But I ask you to stay on note and address the leave.
Thank you for telling me
Stop
how you
lecturing
feel,
us.
Madam Speaker. The vote last night in this place speaks for itself. Ultimately, we are elected into this place. We are elected into this place to vote, not to pay lip service to young people and the need for climate action. It is our vote that counts. And at the end of the day, what Labor and Liberal and every member in this place, apart from Dr Woodruff, Ms. Ogilvie and I, voted for was only to acknowledge the climate strike. You did not vote to support those kids. They did not vote to support those kids. So we censure every member of this place, Madam Speaker, and that includes you.
Oh, all right, you may now leave the chamber for being offensive yet again. You haven't apologised, and out you go. And you can stay out now for the afternoon. To the afternoon. So at the end, you can come back in at adjournment. Sorry? 6 o'clock, yes. Now the question is that leave be granted.
Madam Speaker.
I beg your pardon?
I'm seeking the call.
Okay. What on what basis?
What's the debate?
It's a debate,
Oh.
and I'm the second speaker on the debate.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, this House does absolutely need to suspend standing orders to deal with this matter today, to look at the urgency of this issue. If, in case we didn't need another disastrous report from the IPCC, they have just in Monaco a few hours ago delivered their special report on the ocean and cryosphere in a changing climate. It is, Madam Speaker, devastating news for those of us who are fighting the battle against a climate breakdown. It makes very clear that our ocean and cryosphere, which is all snow and ice on the planet, sustains us, that they're under immense pressure, that the changes to the oceans and cryosphere affect all of our lives, and that the time for action on this is now. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today, Madam Deputy Speaker. And on that basis, we have to understand, every member in this place has to understand that our inaction, our failure to support the demands of the school strike for climate movement, which is now a global strike, our failure to understand that we are so far from being global climate leaders. These things must be changed. We must reverse these failures. We can do it. Every member in this place can do it. We can no longer sit here and ignore the actions of other people in Australian parliaments, and we do call this parliament to suspend standing orders so we can debate this motion of censure, because the Greens believe it is incredibly important that every single member of the House, of the Labor Party and the Liberal Party understand that we have personal responsibility to Tasmanians. We are here in the Parliament of Tasmania because we represent the people of this state, and it is our obligation, the obligation of the members listed, to stand up to their federal colleagues, to stand up to the federal Labor Party, to stand up to the federal Liberal Party, to make a clear statement that here in Tasmania we do not support
Ms Woodruff,
coal
you
mining.
are to address the seeking of leave, so I do ask you to refrain your comments to the seeking of leave,
Thank you, Madam
please. This
Deputy
is not the
Speaker.
general debate.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. You are absolutely correct. I will come back to the point of urgency today. It is not something that we can put off to the next session of Parliament. We have only years left to turn around the whole planet, which means every single person, we must as a country, and in Tasmania, we can all play a part to that. So we must be responsible for the actions of other people in our parties, and the censure is directed at the Liberal and Labor Party members who are failing to act on behalf of Tasmanians. Every day they come into this Parliament and pretend faux support for the climate strike. You can turn up or not turn up, but it's your actions and what you say when you do it that
Point of
counts.
order.
Point of order. I take deep personal offence at the inference that I do not care for the future of young people and that climate change. As Shadow Minister for Climate Change and as a parent, I attended the climate strike last Friday and I spoke passionately in support of amendments to the motion yesterday declaring a climate emergency amongst other things.
In this case, because
I
it's
ask
not
her
a
to
point...
withdraw.
I know, but because she weren't named directly, she's unable to withdraw the comment unless she had named you specifically in the general comments. However, I do ask the member again to get back to seeking of leave, because this is what this is about, the seeking of leave, not the general debate.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, I seek the leave of the House to debate this matter today because it is clear that the members mentioned in the censure motion voted to support a statement that says Tasmanians understand we are global leading position on climate change. We do not. It is dangerous to peddle that mistruth. It is a lie to say that we are global leaders in climate change. It is not good enough to have a wimpish statement about acknowledging concern on an issue that has led to the global climate strike movement that is leading to the extinction of species and the possible extinction of the human species. It is not good enough. Yes, and one of the ministers mentioned, Michael Ferguson, is shaking his head, and even he would reject today still the United Nations, the IPCC statements. This is what we have to change. We have time to do it. We are losing the race. But when there's a leak in the boat, you don't jump in and hack at it to make it bigger. You do not chop down 356,000 hectares of carbon-rich forest. You do not fail to stand up to your federal Liberal and Labor Party colleagues and call them out for taking money from the gas and coal and for other fossil-fuelled industries. You do not do that.
Are you seeking leave?
You do everything you possibly can.
Again, I do ask Ms Woodruff, you need to the seeking of leave today.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. So today we need to have this censure debate so that every member in this House can leave tonight and go home and talk to the young people who are at the strike, wherever they meet them, and make it really clear that they actually understand what action looks like on climate change. It is not just nice words and holding placards. It's actually doing something, and we are the only people in this state that can do that.
It's outrageous
We have that
moralising, and you
special
know it. You're
ability
playing
and a
politics.
special right. It is our responsibility to change and make it clear, every single member who is mentioned in the censure motion, every member has the opportunity to do something good for this state, for their children's future, And so on that basis, Madam Deputy Speaker, we are calling that
Members' time has
today
expired.
we suspend standing orders to debate this motion.
The Honourable